YouTube, what's going on? Welcome to the Off the Schneid 2020 NFL Preview Series, where I'll be going over all 32 NFL teams, breaking down their rosters, their schedule, giving you a record prediction, as well as helping out with some betting tips. If this is your first time at the channel, do me a massive favor, hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and check the description for links to social media for Off the Schneid. Follow us on there as well. I want to give a massive shout out to OurLads Scouting Services and OurLads.com for helping me to make these videos. I'm on their website almost daily, and if you're a serious football fan, guys, you need to have this website bookmarked, favorited, whatever it is. Helps me at draft time, fantasy football purposes, when creating bet slips, as well as DFS lineups. It's your one-stop shop for NFL scouting services. There's a link in the description for OurLads.com as well as the social media. Do me a favor again, hit that like and subscribe button. But enough of that. Let's get to your favorite NFL football preview. All right, we're taking a look at the San Francisco 49ers. They were my darling team last year. Picked them to win the division preseason. Got 6.5 to 1 on my money on that one, so that was really good for the bet. But we'll start at quarterback as we always do. We got Jimmy GQ, Jimmy Garoppolo. Gets a lot of hate, man. He gets a lot of hate for whatever reason. People got to remember that this was his first full season as a starter in the NFL, in this offense, all of that. It was his first season as a starter. I know he had quite a bit of experience, with the Patriots, as a starter with the 49ers, everything like that. But last year was his first full season, believe it or not. And he had 28 total touchdowns. That's actually a fantastic number. 27 touchdown passes, very, very good numbers. So I don't really understand where all this hate comes from. You really got to remember that was his first full season. So first season in the playoffs, all this stuff. So I expect him to probably take another step forward. Good leader. Very good quarterback in this offense. And then, I say it about a lot of teams where if their quarterback goes down, their season's pretty much over type of a thing. This isn't one of those teams. There is a drop off for sure, but Nick Mullins and CJ Beathard, I think, are both capable starters, if need be. And both of them could lead this team, I think, to a winning season and potentially probably a playoff berth. Maybe they wouldn't win the division, obviously, without Jimmy G, but I think that they could potentially still make the playoffs if something should happen to Jimmy Garoppolo. I still think that would be a bad, horrible thing for the Niners, obviously, but they could make do. We'll move to the running back position. One of the deepest running back cores in the league, in my opinion, even with losing Breda. So Raheem Mostert will be kind of the first guy for touches. Tevin Coleman's right there. We know Kyle Shanahan really likes him. And then Jeff Wilson has shown a nose for the end zone and an ability to get it done if need be. And then they still got Jerick McKinnon, who was signed to be the starter years ago. Injuries and whatnot hasn't panned out, but he's still there. So they're very set at running back, and they have one of the best fullbacks, probably the best fullback in the NFL, in Kyle Juszczyk. So this is kind of where they make their hay with the running backs, fullbacks, and tight ends. So George Kittle, in my opinion, is the number one tight end in the league. I think he can do everything you need from a tight end. He can block, he can run every route, he can catch, he's got great hands, tough guy. I love watching George Kittle. He's one of my favorite players in the NFL and my number one tight end personally. Ross Dwelley did show that he can be a capable backup, and if called upon, he played started a couple games when I think Kittle missed. How many did he miss last year? He missed 2 games. And Ross Dwelley filled in. Okay. He wasn't just lost out there. He had a couple touchdown catches. He can block as well. He's nowhere near the level of George Kittle, but he's capable. And then Charlie Warner was a very good pick for them, in my opinion. That was a good guy to bring in and learn and develop type of a guy. We'll go to the offensive line. As far as like sacks allowed, 36 sacks allowed. That's a decent number. There's nothing wrong with that. I think that it's kind of middle of the pack. If they stay right there, they should be fine. They'll potentially be better. I know Joe Staley missed some games. I'm not sure exactly how many he missed off the top of my head, but as long as Trent Williams comes in and plays 16 games and plays well, plays like he can and did in the past. He's not that old. I think he's 31, I believe. 31. Yeah, he should be able to come in and play a better, probably a better version of Joe Staley at this point in Joe Staley's career. It was time for him to hang him up, and he did. He's a Hall of Famer most likely. So they should be just fine and potentially better. Justin School is a very good backup. I like the Colton McKevitz pick. Ben Garland's there as backup. Even Daniel Brunskill. Mike McGlinchey is right there for one of the best right tackles in the game. He could have moved over to left tackle, but bringing in Trent Williams, you want to keep him there most likely. But McGlinchey is fantastic. Tom Compton's good. Weston Richburg, is fine. Lake and Tomlinson, they're all very good. Interior, their line is very, very good. And you could potentially say that they improve off of last season. If they're just where they were, or exactly where they were last season, that's okay too. Wide receivers. They draft Brandon Ayuk with their second first-round pick. I think that's a great pick. A very, very good guy to have on this team. All of these wide receivers are almost carbon copies of each other. There's a couple different traits, but they're very, very similar. So they lost Emmanuel Sanders, which isn't a huge deal because they traded him. They traded for him halfway through the year, but that's not a huge deal in my opinion, losing him. Brandon Ayuk, I think, can step in and play that exact same role that Sanders did. Deebo Samuel broke his foot, I believe. What's it called? The Jones fracture or something like that. Broke his foot, so he might not be 100% to start the season. I'm really not that concerned about it if he's not. I think they really like Kendrick Bourne. Dante Pettis is still there. Jalen Hurd is coming back. I really don't mind Richie James, and Trent Taylor's still there. They drafted Jawan Jennings. They signed Travis Benjamins. They have a lot of similar guys that can do everything that they need their wide receivers to do for this offense, how it's structured and how they run it. A lot of play action, that kind of thing. A lot of running, obviously. They dump the ball off to the running backs a lot. So they don't really need, like a Nuke Hopkins guy. They just don't really need that with this offense. So even if Deebo Samuel isn't 100% coming back right away, I don't think it's going to be a huge loss for this team. With their coaches, Kyle Shanahan, Robert Saleh is probably going to be a head coach after the season, I would imagine. I think he was right there, and probably I know he got interviewed. I don't know how close he was to getting a head coaching gig, but he's not far off at all, and he's on the short list for most teams, in my opinion. Move over to the defensive side of the ball. They traded away DeForest Buckner for a first-round pick, which turned into Javon Kinlaw, who is just the replacement for DeForest Buckner. It's just fine. I think that this defense is going to be the same, if not better, than they were last year. They obviously lost DeForest Buckner, and that's really it. Emmanuel Sanders, that's kind of a wash. Anthony Zettel, I'm not too worried about at all. Elijah Lee, I'm really not concerned about. Then they brought in Jason Verrett, who can still help out. Tom Compton, who's likely going to be the starter on the offensive line. Kerry Hyder, that's fine. Nothing really to write home about there. So they should be, with Jason Verrett, Kinlaw, washing. I think Jason Verrett will help. Especially if there's any injuries on that for corner, and just a depth guy as well. So Eric Armstead, Solomon Thomas, Javon Kinlaw, Nick Bosa, you got DJ Jones, you got D Ford, Ronald Blair's even capable. This is a fantastic defensive line, and will likely take a step forward with Nick Bosa in his second year. Javon Kinlaw is ready to go. DJ Jones in another year of experience. D Ford hopefully gets a full season. This is dangerous. This is a dangerous defensive line. And this was part of the reason why I picked them to win this division, was because of their defensive line, as well as their corners and everything like that. I like the makeup of the team. And and they're still right there and might be a little bit better. If not, yeah, I mean, I would say they're potentially better. I mean, losing DeForest Buckner does hurt, but Kinlaw, he's a little bit raw, but that's a fantastic replacement if you ask me. And then their linebackers, Quan Alexander, Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw, man, they're not giving up anything on any level of this defense. It's really stacked. It is really, really, really complete, in my opinion. Even their safeties, Jaquiski Tart, that's a tough one, and Jimmy Ward, both very, very, very good safeties. Tart, I know, had some issues with health last year, but he should be fine. I'm not concerned about that. Jimmy Ward is very, very good free safety, very good. And then Richard Sherman can still get the job done. He's getting older, which is a bit of a concern, but he can definitely still get the job done. And I think they've got a fair bit of depth there. Witherspoon is fine as a starter. I like Jason Verrett as a depth guy, third corner type of guy, and even Emmanuel Mosley. Those guys can all get it done. They got Tez Tabor, don't call me Tez, Jalen Tabor as well. Quan Williams is fine in the nickel slot type of a corner, as well as DJ Reed. This team is stacked. Like, I can't really say it enough. This team up and down, top to bottom, at every level, defense, offense. It's a very, very complete team. They're well coached. I'm a really big fan of the 49ers. I really like how they play and what they do, especially if they can get some guys to take a step forward, like Deebo Samuel. Jimmy G, believe it or not, I think he can take a step forward. Like I said, this will be his second complete season if he gets through the whole season. Raheem Mostert is super fresh. Coleman should be good. Wilson, super fresh. So I really like this team. I really, really do. So there you go with that. There's your roster breakdown. Let's move over to the record prediction as well as a walkthrough of their schedule. All right, there you go. Low, high, my. I think they finished with double-digit wins. Again, on the low side, even double-digit wins. Now, for the betting, like I said, last year, I picked them to win the division preseason, 6.5 to 1. I really like those odds, and that made tons of sense. This season, I don't know if I'm going to be betting on the Niners, even though I do think that they most likely do win this division, and they've got an extremely good shot at winning back-to-back division titles here. But 1.95 on my money, I'm not sure if I like that number enough to actually bet it. I'm probably going to, like I said, pick them to win this division, but I'm not likely going to bet on them at that number. We'll see, but I do wish it was, 2.2, something like that. I'd like that number a lot more, but I think this division is very, very close with the top three, which will be the Niners, the Seahawks, and the Cardinals. I think the Rams fall to the bottom of the pack, and but those three teams I think are a lot closer than these odds are kind of saying. So yeah, I'm not likely going to bet on them, but we'll see what happens. We'll start week 1 at home against Arizona. I think that they probably, when divisions are as tight as this one is, in my opinion, I pick the teams to split. So I think all three of those teams could all probably sweep the Rams. I think the Rams are a bad team, and I don't think that they have a chance at this division with those three teams. So I'm going to say that the Niners sweep the Rams and split with the Cards and the Seahawks. So home and home, it's an easy way to look at it, but that's just kind of the best way to work out your projections, in my opinion, sitting here in July. So week 1, we got Arizona. I think they get that win at home. Then they go on the road. It's extreme west to extreme east for 2 games in a row. If I'm the Niners, I probably just stay in New York. I don't know why you don't. Back-to-back Sundays in New York. Do you really want to fly clear across the country again? I don't know. I don't know if they do or not. We'll see. But those are tough games when you're going extreme west to extreme east. But the Niners are the much better team. If they're flying on game day, like has been kind of reported recently, if they're flying on game day and they do go back and forth, that makes it a little bit tougher for sure. But they are the superior team to both of those teams, so they should get those wins. At home against Philly, I like them to get that win. They're better defensively, at least close, and better offensively, at least close. So I think that they can get that win against Philly. At home against Miami, even with Miami's improvements, I still like the Niners to win that game. Again, clear across the country from Miami. It's a lot easier to go east to west than west to east, but they should be able to beat the Miami Dolphins for sure. At home against the Rams, I think they absolutely get that win. Like I just said, the Rams are going to take a back seat in my opinion. So that's going to be an easy win. Primetime game as well. On the road against New England, October in Foxborough should be just fine. I think they are very much the better team than the New England Patriots. Even with Cam signing there, I still think that the Niners fairly easily get that win. So they might not take their first loss until November, and they're sitting there at 7-0. That's a very, very reasonable schedule for them to go 7-0 to start the season. On the road against Seattle, I think, like I said, they split home and home. I'm just going with home and home split. It could be away, who knows? But I'm taking the Cards and the Seattle Seahawks to split with the Niners. It's an easy way to look at it, but it is what it is. Then a short week at home against Green Bay. Very winnable game. They beat up on the Packers pretty good in the playoffs last year, and I think there's a good possibility they do that again at home on a short week. They're only going from Seattle to San Francisco, traveling the week before, same time zone, all that kind of stuff. So I like the Niners to get the win over the Packers there. On the road against New Orleans, I'm going to take the Saints there. I know that they're going to be super motivated, obviously, to get that win. It's a statement game in New Orleans. I'm taking they do have more rest. Like the Niners will have that extra few days of rest, but I think the Saints probably get that win at home. Great bye week for a playoff team. Week 11, this is absolutely 100% a playoff team in my opinion, unless it's a disaster somehow strikes. Week 11 is a very good week to have your bye week when you're going to the playoffs. Gets you that late rest. And they should be just fine to get to the playoffs. Then on the road against the Rams, I think they beat up on the Rams coming out of their bye for sure. So like I said, they sweep the Rams. At home against Buffalo, Buffalo's going clear across the country. That's tough. At home for the Niners, if there's fans in the stands, I absolutely like the Niners. There hopefully will be by December. If not, the Bills might have a better shot, but I still think that the Niners should be able to get that win there. At home against the Redskins should improve by then. They should have some things figured out. Their defense is very, very good, but all around the Niners, they're comparable defensively and much better offensively. So they get the win at home. At Dallas, that's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a really tough one. So there's probably going to be some sort of breakdown somewhere on the back end for the Niners. Richard Sherman, maybe Jason Verrett, someone like that. There could be an injury at that point. Dallas has just tons of weapons. Their defense is, bend don't break. And the Niners do have a good defense, but they're not scoring a million points. I think the Cowboys get that win at home is what I'm getting at here. I think the Cowboys are definitely able to get that win at home. I think they'll both be making playoff pushes at that time. And that's potentially, an NFC championship preview type of a game. Same with the Saints game, even the Packers, those are the types of games. So I think that they have a hard time winning that game. On the road against Arizona, like I said, I'm giving them splits, home and home splits. But those are two very, very big games and huge divisional deciding type of games against Arizona and Seattle to finish up the season there. One road, one home, so they probably beat Seattle at home. They lose on the road type of thing. But those are pivotal games, week 16 and 17. Huge games. So we'll see how they go, but you can kind of see where I'm getting my projections. I think it would be an absolute disaster if they don't win double-digit games. I fully 100% expect them to be in the playoffs again and absolutely in talks to win the division. I think it's really, really close. I do. I think it's very close. The Cardinals are in a very similar spot to where the Niners were last year. One of the worst teams in the division, very good defense, offensive-minded coach. It's going to be tough, and Seattle is just always there. So, yeah, it should be a really good season. I think the NFC West is fantastic. It's stacked. It should be fun. It should be down to the wire, much like it was last season. So there you go. Let me know what you think in the comments, but there's your breakdown for the San Francisco 49ers in 2020.